After more than 20 years since the original Archangel-type particle first debuted, Mr. Tagro returns with revisiting the motif prompt with a brand new design and successor sporting more of an Empress design than that of an Archangel. It is AAG01 Fermion, with a kit of full repair, drain shot, sanctuary, float legs, and the leg ability of Breakneck, which passively buffs the user's heat stat and speed while in heat phase. Now, the first thing you're going to see as well with the introduction of Fermion is a completely brand new kit that she is bringing to the table. And it's going to be a lot of really hefty things that she brings as well when it comes to the extended survivability game. And Mr. Tagro most certainly did not pull any punches. Well, then again, when does he ever when it comes to his designs? All of his designs are fantastic. When it comes to revisiting the Archangel-type prompt and making a true spiritual successor to what Particle first brought to the table. Full Repair, and the first brand new skill that Fermion brings to the table, is a healing attribute skill that, upon use, any parts that are active but not broken will have all of their HP restored back to 100%. At the cost, you only get one use. So much like the cases with self-restore, where you get all broken parts back at 50% instead of 10%, you're going to have to time this really carefully. The difference, however, is full repair does not count if the parts are broken. The parts must still be in play if you plan to make use of that and recap everything back at 100%. Drain Shot, the second new skill that she brings to the table, is a shooting skill, which basically serves as armor drain but shooting. So essentially, upon use and attacking the target, it will serve as kind of like a vampiric drain and steal up to about 30% of the damage dealt to restore the user's lost HP back to self. So very good as well for HP sustain as well, just between both of these skills alone, and trying to make sure that Fermion stays in the field as long as possible. Sanctuary on the left arm is the third skill that she's bringing to the table brand new. That is a dual-use healing skill as well. It will apply a stack of Hyper Repair to self, which is healing over time as long as the effect is active, but it will also apply a stack of Mobile Boost to self once activated. So this means that between her three skills, once Sanctuary does officially kick in and go into effect, her already very impressive and very bulky HP sponge of a kit will become even harder to take down the longer that the heal over time effect is allowed to stay. Plus, Mobile Boost also means that if she's not already going fast already, she will most certainly be going quickly once that effect gets kicked into action. Float Legs means that she will have A rank across the board on all terrains, minus of course S rank on Cyber, and compared to most other Float Legs as well, she basically more or less serves in that boss type kind of territory. So she's already going to be packing some very solid skills there as well. Being triple heavy, she does have very good specs as well for those legs. And when it comes to leg stats as well, 837 on that mobility is a very good start before any terrain bonus, before any Medarot bonus, or even before Mobile Boost comes into effect, which, reminder, is 50% boost to mobility once activated. She's already off to a very good start on every terrain under the sun. An evade of 1654 is also solid as well, as it means she's going to be pretty solid at dodging or grazing incoming attacks moderately well without anything really coming to damage her or break her too easily. A melee resist of almost 1500 and a shoot resist of a little over 1500 means that she's going to have some pretty well-rounded damage reduction as well, and can hold her own moderately well when it comes to taking hits up close or tanking them from afar. And this also is not touching on Breakneck, which means that while she's in heat phase, she will also be going notably faster than the numbers that you see here. So she's going to be very difficult to outrun in a lot of situations, especially given that the average heat stat is already in the mid 600s to mid 700s, and the same can be said for her cool stat. So she's already going to have speed on her side right from square one before anything else comes into effect. However, one of the other really big weaknesses I do want to mention on Fermion, as you see here, is the fact that despite having impressive HP pool of 4,500 for the head, 3,900 per arm, and 5,400 for the legs, she is triple heavy, which means, akin to her predecessor Particle, she also is susceptible and weak to anyone that brings heavy punish to the table. Break hammer, break rush. The moment something breaks on her, she's done, because a lot of her kit specializes on keeping things healthy, but not restoring broken things. Now, Fermion is also capable of meta-changing much like her predecessor Particle can, but instead of taking the form of a holy beast in particular, Fermion instead takes the appearance of a more biblically accurate angel, as the term floats around with a very strange and almost indescribable kind of form as described in text. But in this form, she exchanges her healing-based survival kit out entirely for a more aggressive-based kit, with 2 brand new skills also being introduced to the table, for a total of 5. Max Shot for Drive A, Needle Guard on Drive B, and Max Vulcan on Drive C, with float legs maintained, but a new leg ability of Reversal, which buffs power and success of all equipped combat skills every time the user receives a healing effect. This can be HP restoration to part restore, but given that it's a meta change, that one doesn't really matter. So basically, anytime that she receives a heal over time or an HP restoration effect to self, her success and her damage go up. Max Shot on Drive A is a skill we've started seeing more and more on the scene with competitive meta. Simply explained, it has a base damage on its own that will be doubled and also gain pierce damage as long as the user's HP remains at 100%. So this will be very important, especially with it being on a meta change type model that Fermion is not touched at all. Because the moment she loses that double damage and pierce damage bonus that Max Shot would be given. But even then, having a base power of over 2200 and a high heat stat at 807 means that even if she decides not to go after that double damage bonus, it's still going to be a relatively painful attack no matter what. Needle Guard on Drive B is a defensive-based skill that, while active, will plant her on the center line for 1 charge. And through this charge, any kind of incoming attack, whether it be melee or whether it be shooting, will be reflected back to sender at half of the intended damage. And given that it's also on a meta change type model, it means that she's also immune to destroy, which means approach with caution if you are planning to combat Fermion. Drive C of Max Vulcan is another new skill, and the last of the new skills that she's bringing to the table, which is basically just a Gatling version of Max Shot, which means, as it was with Max Shot, double damage and also high crit effect or high damage if the total HP remains at 100%. The difference is that because it's a scatter-based skill, there is no extra added bonus to it aside from the double damage. So that means that as a scatter skill, it will damage 1 part normally and then 2 others at random for extra damage added onto that. Of course, with the double damage being added if Fermion is untouched and unscratched. Float legs, as it was within her base form, means that she will have solid terrain coverage on all terrains with no real drawback there. And legs and her base stats as well, while in change form, are quite impressive as well, with a mobility of 1006, an evade of over 1700, a melee resist of almost 1150, and shoot resist at 1020. Very solid and very chunky skills. And that's also not even chunking on the 17,500 HP that she has to pull from when it comes to keeping herself alive on the field. All this being said, though, as a pure set score, I'd honestly have to rate Fermion a pretty well-rounded 8 out of 10 across the board, because between her HP restoration in her base mode and her more aggressive form in meta change mode, she can kind of cover for her own weaknesses decently well and pretty much convert from going to healer to aggressor pretty much at the flip of a switch. The only real drawbacks that I see is that despite Reversal complementing her base kit really well, especially once she has Sanctuary officially kicked in on her kit, the really big issue she has is Reversal requires her to have used an HP restoration or heal over time effect first, and the other thing to Fermion is she does not have part restoration, which means, in contrast to Particle, who can restore HP and also burst restore broken parts at once for better generalized coverage and survivability, Fermion sacrifices a good chunk of what the original Archangel type brought to the table in trade for more aggression and higher speed, higher survivability, especially on the more aggressive side with Needle Guard, Max Shot, and Max Vulcan. Whereas Drain Shot mostly is just there to kind of keep her alive. So if a part breaks on Fermion, she already loses about 50% of half the reason she's on the field to begin with, which is the aggressive kit she brings to the table. As mixed parts, I do have to rate her just a little bit lower at about a 7 out of 10 for these same reasons. even though you are sacrificing Max Shot, Needle Guard, and Max Vulcan with a very solid leg ability as well with her meta change form, if you're looking more for selfish survivability and just kind of guaranteeing you can stay in the game as long as you can, Fermion does kind of hold her own remarkably well with that. And her float legs are very well balanced and rounded as well in that respect, which means that if you need the parts more just for survivability than anything else, you really don't have to look too much farther than her because they are definitely a very solid upgrade to the original particle. But if you generalize and specialize survivability, Fermion unfortunately may not be the model for you.